Hey everyone, I have a very special video for you all today. Recently, I was able to sit down with Jason from Sow the Land, and I got to ask him questions about my homestead and everything I'm planning on doing in 2023 and beyond. If you're new here, a little background on me. The land that I'm on is old family land dating all the way back to 1918 when my great grandfather bought this place and built a homestead. My family managed to hold on to our share of the property over the years, and I've always dreamed of moving here and rejuvenating our former family homestead. My plan was to go pro in baseball to fund all of this, but after I was drafted, an MRI in my elbow ended my career before it even started. So I finished school, I moved to about an hour and a half away from where I'm at now, and I worked 9 to 5 for 3 years. During that time, I saved as much as possible, and I was up here pretty much every weekend, and I was planting trees, I started a garden, building some things, and I was attempting to learn all of the skills and enough knowledge to actually have a chance at being self-sufficient down the line. About 10 months ago from now, I took the plunge and I moved up here, and I really wanted to take my homestead to the next level. I cleared space and built a garden. I expanded my food forest. I got laying hens, meat chickens, planted a blueberry patch. We built a pole barn. I built a greenhouse. I built another greenhouse. And then I built another greenhouse. That pretty much brings you to where I'm at now. And I have even bigger things planned for 2023. And I have a lot of questions about those ideas and projects that I'm planning on taking on this year. So that's where Jason comes in. I've been a fan of his for many years. I've learned a lot from his YouTube channel, and he has several years of direct knowledge and experience doing exactly what I'm trying to do on my homestead. So I purchased a homestead consultation on his website, came up with a list of questions, and connected with him via Zoom to get his insight on a lot of different topics. One thing I want to mention quickly, though, before I start our conversation is I have very poor internet connection up here, and he said he doesn't have the greatest internet where he's at, so this resulted in a pretty significant lag in our audio. There was a few second delay, so it resulted in the beginning of our conversation being pretty choppy, but I think as it went on, we figured out how to navigate it, and it went pretty smoothly from there on out. So that's enough of that. Let's get on to the questions. The first thing I asked Jason was in regards to pasturing my meat chickens. Last year, I ended up getting meat chickens and putting them in my blueberry patch to help control the grass over there. The grass in that area was just way too much for me to handle, and it was taking up a lot of my time that should have been devoted elsewhere. So I put the chickens over there, and they did a good job managing the grass, and I still had to go over there a lot to feed them and water them and move them around, but I at least got some protein out of the deal. But my friend who hatched all the laying hens that I've been raising said that she knows someone who raises meat birds, and they just move them around on new patches of grass every day, and they don't have to give them any feed. So I thought that was really interesting. I never even thought that was really an option, and I knew that since I have a big patch of grass for these meat birds to be on in this blueberry patch, I was wondering if it's feasible to raise them without having a huge food bill. I get food scraps from our local grocery store as well, so I can give some of those to my meat birds in my blueberry patch, but I was very curious to see what Jason's take on this topic would be.
I would think you'd have to give them something, even if it is just food scraps. I don't know. Do you follow Billy at Permanent Pastures Farm?
Yes, a little bit. Yeah, I've kind of just found his channel, and I'm kind of watching him a little
Yeah,
bit.
he does that.
He does a lot of cool
He
things.
doesn't buy. Yeah, he doesn't buy any feed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he buys no feed for any of his chickens. He goes and gets food from local restaurants, grocery stores, and he feeds all his animal, even his pigs. He feeds them all food, all that kind of food, in and he that's how he raises them. Um, so I think it can be done, but I also feel like they probably gonna. I would think that they would need some kind of something. I mean, if you can't get food scraps, I would still feed them grain,
Right.
but maybe you just don't feed them as much as you should. And then I think you have to keep in mind that they're probably not going to grow as fast.
Right.
But if you're not looking to grow them super fast, then that I think that's no issue.
Right. It's almost
Um,
better if they grow a little slower
so,
for
but
me
yeah,
too.
I think it can be done. But as long as you move them around, also, yeah. I mean, I would, if anything, I would still feed them some kind of grain. I mean, yeah, maybe you're not, giving them because I'll go through for 30 chickens. I'll go through 75 pound a week. Um, so you might not need to do that much if you just plan on slowly growing them out. But I think the minerals in that feed would just help them just be more healthy, I think.
Right. Well, I'm going to be giving them some food scraps too from our grocery store, and but I want to also have some of those for my laying hens, my other hens I'm going to be using in my garden and my silvopasture area. Those are like my next questions. But if I give them to my meat birds, I don't really get that for compost. You know what I mean? Because I have like a huge like compost pile right now that my chickens kind of dig through. So I'm gonna give them some food scraps, but I got to kind of figure out how to distribute them or find another source.
Right. I mean, those meat birds are gonna at least trample on the grass, even if they not eat it. They might not eat it all, but they're gonna at least trample it down, and then that would like, you know, knock down. The grass is not gonna be as high in that
Yeah,
area.
right.
So that's kind of what my plan is for my blueberry patch this year. I'm going to fence off each individual plant. Then I'm going to take chickens, build them a coop over there, and then let them walk around in between the bushes on the grass all day, digging up food, dropping some fertilizer for them, and eating some bugs, feeding themselves as much as possible. And I'm going to try to give them some food scraps from our local grocery store. So the idea is I want to use these chickens to keep the grass down while improving my blueberry plants, and I want to do all of that without having a huge feed bill. So the next question I have for Jason is in regards to using chickens to help turn forest into
Yeah.
silvopasture.
And so there's a thin strip of woods and that kind of feeds into the woods behind our barn, and I'm going to try to turn that into silvopasture. And so I'm in the process of like logging right now. My cousin who lives close by is helping me out. He has a mill, so we're milling up all the trees into boards and stuff. So we're going to use that to build everything that I'm doing here. And my plan is so like I'm clear. It's forest, so it has like a bunch of leaves like on the ground, like building up for mulch and all that. And I'm trying to figure out how to turn that into like grass and pasture to put some animals on. I want to raise some sheep or some cows eventually, and I'm planning on just kind of I want to see if I can do that with chickens, like some laying hens. 'Cause I'm going to get a bunch of hens this year, and do you think that would be anywhere possible? You think they would dig it up enough? Because I know most people say like get pigs and goats and all that.
Right. Definitely pigs would do the job, I think. But yeah, I mean, I think chickens would do it too. They might not do it as fast, but
Right.
again, you might not be looking to, do it super fast or anything like that. But like I think if you just have them in there, um, they're definitely gonna dig, especially if you have leaves, like old leaves and stuff. Like they love that.
Right.
That's gonna keep them occupied, as long as you have them a perimeter, some kind of perimeter fence around them and just let them go to town. I think I don't see why they wouldn't. I just think it might take a little bit longer. And also, I guess it depends too, like how many chickens you have going on in an area.
Right. How many? I mean, do you think? Because I'm thinking about because I have like 10 right now, and I'm gonna get meat birds for my blueberry patch. I'm thinking I'm gonna have to get somewhere closer to like 50, and kind of raise them up and then get them out on the grass as soon as I can. Like, do you think that would that be a pretty good dent into like what I'm trying to do? Because I know I'm gonna need a lot if I'm gonna do it this way. I was just curious. Like, I didn't even know if they would dig up.
Have 50 meat chickens.
No, no, just laying hens. I'm gonna have meat chickens separate in the blueberry patch, and then I'm gonna put the hens, my laying hens, onto the silvopasture. Put them to work there.
And then you're gonna put a netting around them.
Yeah, some sort of thing. I'm gonna put up some permanent fencing, and then I'm gonna put them in the coop every night. And I have a netting too that I
Yeah, I
had from
mean,
last year.
we have 40 egg laying chicken. Okay. We have 40 egg laying chickens right now. We have them in two different groups, 20 and 20. Um, so I think if you had them all together, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that's a fairly nice size area. And if you just always keep on moving them, they might be in that a particular spot. I mean, depending how big this area is, They might end up being there like a couple of weeks, a few weeks, maybe a month, and then you just move them like month by month. And or you gotta have to like just look at it and just see, how long is it taking them to to really dig up an area and then move them from there. I think it's one of those things where you just have to like put them on an area, pick a size that you want, and then just see how they do it, like how long it takes them to dig up an area. Because I never knew like how long does it take two pigs to dig up, a nice size area, you know, like which I didn't know, but now I know it takes like 2 weeks for two pigs to dig up an area and it's going to look like a muddy mess. So every 2 weeks, I try to move them every 2 weeks so it won't be a muddy mess. And I guess this is going to be the same thing with chickens. You kind of have to like put them in an area and see like how long that is before it's just like desert.
Right. Do you think I should get them an electric fence to kind of section off an area? Because they're going to be in like a permanent fencing and have a mobile coop that I'm going to kind of move around. But yeah, the more I'm thinking about it, I should probably just get like some sort of perimeter to keep them like into one area, or concentrated into one area, and then just kind of plant grass in behind them.
Yeah, I would. I mean, you said you had a perimeter fence, and then if
That's
you
what
had
I'm
like
going to do this
another
year.
area, like a paddock area that you within that fence, so that way you could move them more instead of just having them in one big giant area. Um, so you could, I guess, know like this big of an area is good enough, and how long it takes them to get this area, and then move on and move on and move on.
So for the actual chicken coops, I'm thinking about building some like similar. I actually watched Permapasture's video on his mobile chicken coops, and I'm going to build something similar, but where we have a winter, so I got to build like a more pitched roof style. And I'm thinking about putting the nesting boxes on the outside and securing them, and putting like the automatic door on like the side, so I don't have to step over the railing every time. Am I missing anything with that? Is that going to present any issues? Because I've never seen anyone do that, and I always thought like that would be a better way to do it for me at least.
To put the door on the side and the chicken coops on the outside, or the
Or
nesting boxes on the outside.
yep, because like I've seen a lot of people use like the milk crates and kind of slide them in and out, but I want to put like a more like put them on the outside, like frame the box like outside. I wish I had some plans just something to show you. It's kind of hard to explain, but like I would kind of frame out a little the box for them on the outside, and then just lift the thing up and reach in and grab them, and then like be able to secure it down a little bit better. And I just want to do that in case I don't have them in an electric netting, so I can kind of have it a little bit better for predators.
No, I don't find it. I don't. Right, I don't see a problem with that at all. I mean, it's going to give you, if you have the nesting boxes on the outside, that's actually going to give you more room on the inside coop for them, and they're going to have more room, more chickens can be in there because otherwise those nesting boxes can hog up some space there.
That's what I was thinking exactly.
So that was really great to hear. And what I'm going to do this year is I'm going to use the design that Jason and I just discussed, build some mobile chicken coops, and kind of move my chickens around to different areas of my homestead and put them to work wherever I need them. And one place I want to be using them a lot is the patch of woods that I'm going to be attempting to turn into silvopasture. So I'm clearing the logs out right now, and then I'm going to try to get some chickens with some mobile coops and run them in when I get the area all cleared out, and let them dig up the leaves and plant grass in behind them. So on to the next question.
I'm thinking about setting up like a permanent chicken butchering station, because I know you talk about like you have canopies and you have to replace those all the time. So since we're like clearing out some forest, I'm gonna put some like posts into the ground and kind of run like some metal roofing over top, and kind of set up something permanent, and then take like some old like countertops that we have, and like maybe put a sink out there or something. Like, do you have I don't, I guess, do you have any tips for that? Like, how would you kind of approach that? And how big do you think I need to make it? Like that the canopy area, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I would make it, I kind of go by, currently we use three 10 by 10 easy up canopies. So, so I know, but like those are just for us as we're eviscerating the bird. we're underneath those canopies. So like when we're plucking the bird and we're actually using the killing cones and we're using the scalder, those are not underneath those canopies. So in my mind, I'm thinking I'm going to need at least a space that's, 30 feet long. That's three 10-foot canopies. And then 20, I would say 20 feet wide, like 30 feet by 20 feet. And that should give me, I mean, but we do workshops too and stuff like that. So we have people here. It's not just me and my wife. Um, but that's going to give us, I think, good enough room to like kind of move around so we're not feel like we're on top of each other.
Right.
And definitely think that's a great idea. You got to think about water. You need to run whether that's water hoses or if you could pipe in some kind of water nearby, and also electrical if you're running a plucker. Um, I would put hoses overhead, like water hoses come up like a water line and have hoses hanging down where you could just like kind of turn them on as you're eviscerating the bird, and then you could wipe or hose down your area as you're going. Like I've been to Joel Salatin's polyface farm when they were doing their butchering, and I have some video on that. I think I have a video about that, and showing their setup, and their setup's like the best, like top notch. They've been doing it for a while, so they over time they figured out a lot of things. Uh, Also, I don't think you have to do concrete because it can be expensive, but it would be nice, so that way you could like hose down stuff if you need to. But not to say you can't just use dirt or wood chips or even rock, because it is gonna, there's a lot of water going on, so you are gonna be in kind of like a muddy area that can happen. So yeah, I mean, I would do it. You gotta, yeah. For me, I gotta run electrical. I gotta run water lines. I want to do concrete. It's gonna be at least 30 feet by 20 feet. And then also I'm thinking dual purpose, like not just chickens. I'm thinking like if I want to hoist up a pig, if I want to hoist up a cow, maybe that's where we do it, because where I want to put it is more of kind of central location of our farm. So I don't have to run one of our cows all the way down to the barn. I could just run them where they're at out in the pasture area. And I could just run them underneath that shelter and then hoist them up there if I need to. So like maybe doing all the butchering underneath that shelter instead of just chickens.
That was actually my next question.
Yeah, I mean,
I saw your plan for
yeah.
a pig hoist, and it's kind of like a square that goes up and connects. Like, do you use that for? How do you do your cows? Because I'm worried about, because like most of our meat comes from deer hunting, and that's why I'm kind of lucky I don't have to put so much time into like raising cows and sheep. I'm getting most of my meat from my land already from that, but I just want to have something set up so I can like do that like cleanly and effectively, because now we're just hanging them in trees and it's kind of like it works, but it's not ideal or anything. I just want to have like a good system in place to actually like get that done efficiently. And so I'm kind of thinking about setting up like a permanent station for everything. And I didn't even think about kind of doing it all together, but I guess it makes sense now that I'm thinking about it. Because I didn't think the chicken station would be that big, but now that you mention it, those canopies are pretty huge. So I'm probably gonna have to make like a pretty decent sized area, and I could probably fit a deer under there if I make it tall enough.
Yeah, and I think you also got to keep in mind that I mean, I think you said maybe doing it underneath a forest in the forest or something, but yeah, you got to keep in mind that the people that are doing the butchering, that they need to be shaded. If it rains or the sun, like keep in mind where that sun is coming up, and on this hot summer day, we want to be cool, and because we have to be comfortable, and that's just going to make your life a lot better. And like for my pig hoist, that was a pig hoist that I did, and I just hoisted up a pig, and that thing was if you're gonna scald a pig, you got to keep in mind that you have the scalder, which is a 55-gallon barrel. That's how we do it. So that pig has got to lift above that into the scalder and then come out. So the height of that pig hoist I had was at least 14 feet high for a pig.
Okay, cool.
I would say
That
that's probably good enough for a cow. You might have to beef up that pig hoist for a cow.
oh, definitely.
I don't know if you saw the video I did in December where I killed that cow, one of our beefy boys. But we have that barn now, so that was perfect for that. And that barn is about 14 feet high, and that was barely enough for that cow to hoist up, so his head's not dragging on the floor.
Hmm. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I didn't know that hoist was that big in those plans. I saw those plans on your website. But 14 feet would be enough for
It was
everything.
huge. That pig hoist was huge, and we had that hoist up on our when we were on 1.5 acres. And we're on that 1.5 acres. We were on a busy street. Like our side road there was like
Yeah.
super busy. And so we butchered those two pigs on like a Monday. And here we are hoisting up these pigs, on this 14-foot tall thing, and like everyone's driving to work.
That's
You
awesome.
know,
Yeah.
I wonder how that looked.
So you're on year 7, I think you said. So I'm almost to year 2. Is there anything that you wish you planted or built, or like a skill you learned or done like when you were in my position that like would be very beneficial to where you're at now?
No, that's a good one. Fruit trees. Um, yeah, so I think certain skills, like electrical, laying down water lines, uh, even building skills. I wish I would have either, helped out on a construction crew or a house crew, or if I knew anybody that did that, or just kind of pick somebody's brain on like, hey, how do you do electrical stuff? Now I'm trying to figure out uh how to do kind of the mainly the electrical stuff I'm having a problem with. Like I want to run a wire, and I'm not good at electrical. I'm not comfortable around it. Um, Mainly kind of stuff like I guess like trade work kind of stuff of like how do you build something like a proper way to build things. Uh, Even though maybe I'm not build a house, I might not build a house, but at least I would have the option of doing something like that or doing it a proper way. Um, Definitely that trying to figure out those kind of skills without just watching YouTube videos. Um, and uh, I would say I think you're on the right track. I mean, um, figuring out what your land needs as far as, fencing, water. Those are all issues that everybody has a problem with. We all have those issues, fencing and water, because those things can be expensive. It can be a lot of work. Um, but trying to figure that out of like, I guess going to other people's farms too, I think helps and seeing what they're doing in real life, not just, reading a book about certain things. I think when you see farms that are maybe farms that you want to be, or you see somebody farming on their place or homestead, and you're like, oh man, I would really want what they're doing, and actually see if you could go to their place and like, or even if it's just a neighbor, and just like kind of, I guess, hang out with them and tell them, ask them to show you around. I mean, that's what we did early on in this area. We hung out at farmers markets, and we would uh, just introduce ourselves to these people that had little small farms, and we'd be like, "Hey, you mind if I come out to your farm and seeing what you're doing, and they'd be happy to show us around and just kind of get different ideas of like how we could do certain things, rather than watching a video or reading a book or looking at websites, because that just can just be like hard to look at a video or a photo, and how can I apply that to my own situation, versus if you go to the actual place and talk to these people, you could see it in real life, and you can be like, almost you're getting inspired, and getting different ideas of like, oh, okay, I see how they're doing that, or I see how they're running water lines, or seeing how they hook up their water lines and how they feed their animals, or what kind of fencing they're using, or where's their how they build their greenhouse and all this kind of things. And I think just meeting those kind of people in real life, I think that's super helpful. Um, so, but yeah, I mean, I think you're on the right track too. I think definitely the trees. I think that too. Not everyone knows like when you just go on a property, like where do you put trees?
Right.
Where do you put all those blueberries? But it seems like you got that going, which is good. Like for us, we planted some apple trees last year, and now we're already thinking of like that probably might not be at the best spot. And now we're thinking about ripping them out and putting them in another spot.
I'm kind of thinking of some creative ways to make money. So I'm in, like, we have access to wood and a mill, and I'm kind of been slowly acquiring all the tools that I kind of need to do some woodworking. If you were me and you had tools, a lumber supply, a mill access, like, what would you, like, is there anything that kind of jumps out at you, I guess, that you would kind of consider doing?
Yeah. If you have a mill, um, is there anyone around you that's wants lumber milled?
Yeah, that's kind of what we're doing. We kind of just do that, but there's just kind of like that's what we've kind of been doing, and that's I'm just gonna take a few trees every year and kind of get them milled up, and it just comes down to storage it's an issue, and most people have lumber around here because it's tough to live out here without having your own like some sort of your own lumber supply. But we do that, and that's a good business. But I was just wondering if there's anything else that kind of jumped out at you, because I know you like renovated school buses and did a bunch of cool businesses like that. So I was just wondering if anything came to your mind.
Um, maybe custom lumber. Like I don't know if that's a thing. Like someone looking for a specific thing, and or maybe they bring like a giant tree stump and drop it off at your place, and then you mill it for them.
Yeah, yeah, we can. Well, it's actually my cousin's mill, so like he does that for other people, but he'll mill anything I need, for free because we give him firewood and trade some labor for him, things like that. But I'm thinking about starting some sort of like furniture idea, but I don't because I still have to get my skills up a little bit to do that and get a planer and things, but and then I'd have to figure out like shipping. But I think there's some sort of angle to there, but I just don't know. Like, is there like are the margins good enough there? You know what I mean? Like, do people really pay I'm still very early on into looking into it, but I was just kind of wondering if you had any experience there.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends. I mean, yeah, shipping is a lot,
Yeah,
like that's one thing I don't like doing is shipping. And for a while there, we were doing a lot of that. I was doing a lot of working on early on. But like the area that we're at, I mean, there's so many craft shows, and I used to do a lot of that early on. Would just make little home good type stuff and take it to a craft show every weekend. And so that's when I started making cutting boards and like hand carved spoons, and just kind of anything smallish that I knew I could put in a box and ship. Because then when you look at if you want to do furniture, I think that's great, but you also got to think of how you're going to ship this thing. You
exactly.
know,
Yep.
maybe it's local pickup only, or maybe you meet them halfway type thing. Um, but then I also think if somebody really wants something that you made, they'll pay for shipping. People understand that shipping is a lot. I mean, for some people, that's a deal breaker. They're like, no, I'm not going to pay that much for, I want it, but I'm not going to pay another, half the price for it for shipping. And I understand that. But then there's ways to maybe you put the shipping price. I think when people see free shipping, they're like, "Oh, free shipping, that's great," and they're gonna buy it. But what you did would just put it into the price of what you build it in. And if you're just getting this wood if you can get that wood basically for nothing, then yeah, maybe you do that. Then like if you can get the wood for free, basically, and maybe the shipping is not going to be a big deal because you didn't have to pay for the material, and you're turning around and creating a product out of it and charging like, 4 times what you can get for it. So yeah, I mean, if you have access to the wood, I would definitely try to make something out of it, whether it's furniture or even just maybe you start off small and see if you could do that. I mean, I think, I don't know if you've been on Etsy.com before, but that's a great way to start because everything's all built in, like the shipping. You don't have to worry about anything. It's super cheap to start it. They take out their fee, but it's really nothing compared to what they give you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm just kind of looking into all that. But Etsy was something I'm considering too. But yeah, like you said, I just have access to all these wood and tool and a free mill pretty much now, and like it just seems like I can figure out something to do there. But cutting boards always seem to be like something that is easier to make and would sell pretty consistently. And furniture seems like there's some people out there making like crazy amount of money doing furniture, but there's just a huge skill gap that I have to close. And so yeah, that is interesting though. But yeah, shipping is definitely something I got to figure out.
Yeah, and also, what was I going to say? I mean, yeah, if you don't have the skill to make furniture yet, which I didn't, and I would start off small, like maybe the cutting boards is it. Maybe the cutting boards is it. And that's just to get you like familiar with the woods, how to join them together kind of deal. And I don't know, I think people like cutting boards. People they like a good thick cutting board.
Right.
They want to do stuff on it and chop on it. I really do think like people will pay some money for a cutting board because
Yeah,
they
for
should
sure.
last forever.
Right.
Forever. I mean, it should be an heirloom.
Right.
They should hand it down to their kids eventually if they take care of it.
So we were actually thinking about like another level of that is kind of making a video about it for each person. So like if you get a table, like there'd be a video of like the tree and then it get like cut down and processed and made into your table and then somehow giving that to them. Like I just think that would be really cool. Like, do you have any tips on like, or I don't like, is there a good way to do that? Because I was thinking like a DVD if we ship it, or I guess we could email it to them or something. But our internet can't even handle attaching too big of files. You know what I mean? So, but I think that would be interesting though, because I think that would
Yeah,
be
I
cool
would.
if I was getting one. If I was getting a table and somebody like showed the tree or like where it came from, and I would give them like a certificate, like a Wisconsin hardwood or something like that. That would be cool.
No, that'd be awesome. I mean, yeah, people love that too. Like it came from Wisconsin hardwood in my forest,
Yeah.
type thing. It was local and it was gluten free.
Yeah. Right.
Um, uh, no, I think that's a great idea. I mean, I don't know, you could film that and put it on your YouTube channel and send them the link,
Oh yeah,
you
I guess that
know,
would be a good way.
it,
That's
or
probably
it,
the best way to do it.
that's kind of like how we started was I started showing me building things in my wood shop, uh, and just saying like, hey, I'm building this thing and I'm going to be putting it on my website, or like, hey, I'm building this for somebody, or I'm taking this to a craft show, but I also made a few more and I put them on our website if you guys are interested. I'll say something like that in a video. Um, and sometimes I'll still do that. Like I'm actually thinking of building a chicken coop and trying to sell it, like build instead of building one chicken coop, build two, and then keep one for myself and then try to sell the other one.
So I hope you all enjoyed these clips of the talk that I had with Jason. I know I thought it was awesome. He definitely gave me a lot of confidence in some of the ideas I was thinking through, like the Silvopasture, and he gave me a lot of new ideas that I'm going to try to implement this year, like with the chicken butchering stations and things like that. So hopefully you picked up a few things from our conversations here and the questions I was asking him.